Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is INX Prime Live. Remember, we are on your screens every single Monday to Friday between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Now, just on Monday, Israeli members of parliament stormed into the Timan prison to prevent the arrest of 9 prison guards accused of torture and rape of Palestinian detainees. Now, according to the Palestinian Prisoners Society, more than 9,000 Palestinians, including women and children, are languishing in Israeli jails. The protesters also demanded the execution of Palestinian prisoners, and the incident comes as the Israeli parliament is debating whether Israelis have the right to torture Palestinian prisoners. And to find out a little bit more about this, we're actually chatting to Africa4Palestine campaigns manager, Alie Komape. Alie, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum for joining us, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us, and salam to all your viewers.
No, it's a pleasure having you. I know we're chatting on quite a disturbing situation right now. Just chatting about this specific incident, I want to understand, how are the Israeli society actually responding to the arrest of these 9 guards that are actually, alleged to do these things?
Yes. Just for some context, which is important, a Palestinian who was not detained, who was kidnapped and put in an Israeli dungeon, was sodomized to the edge of paralysis. This is brutal, and I'm sorry to our viewers, this is very graphic, but this is the truth of the matter. 9 of those were found out, and the Israeli authorities arrested them because that is a crime. Now, we seldom speak about the Israeli government of Netanyahu, that Netanyahu is Hitler reincarnated or is evil reincarnated. We're looking at over 40,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza since the October 7th. So we speak about Netanyahu, we speak about the right-wing government of Ben-Gvir, and these are some of the most evil men in our generation that we know. But we never speak about the Israeli society, the enablers of this evil. And we will sometimes like to think, like we say, some governments don't represent their people, but in this case, perhaps they do. We have large numbers of Israelis who are against the occupation, who are against the regime, but at the same breath we have a large number of Israelis who are for the regime and others who are complicit. In this particular case, this is horrific. These 9 soldiers who committed these barbaric evil acts, we have Israelis who are storming the Israeli authority buildings, demanding that they be released, demanding that the charges be dropped, demanding that the person who was sodomized to paralysis must be executed. In fact, the Israeli Times was covering the news yesterday. They say it was self-defense. There are Israeli organizations like Legal Aid that give legal aid to Israeli soldiers who commit human rights. They argue that it was self-defense. In fact, they argue that the Palestinian who was sodomized must be killed. Is this really, I think we must start questioning, is this really the true nature of Israelis, rather than looking at that Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, and the reincarnate of evil in that war council, in that genocidal council? Should we perhaps also look into the Israeli society that enables and encourages this evil that has visited Palestinians?
No, without a doubt. And we did see some of the visuals as well on the screen. I mean, it is horrific to see them actually going out and protesting for something such a horrible thing as that. I just want to touch on, for our audience as well, some of them might not be very educated on the matter. In terms of international law, how is Israel's treatment of Palestine seen as a violation? Now, we know it is, but just for you to emphasize it for some of our audience.
I think there are a number of international conventions, treaties that deal with wartime prisoners and those captured in war times. Palestinians don't fall under that category. These are Palestinian civilians. These are Palestinian civilians who are kidnapped in their homes, and most of them trying to run from their homes that are burning from Israeli bombs in Gaza. So they are kidnapped outside of Gaza and they are taken into some Israeli dungeon and they stay there. So this is not, so the international conventions on war prisoners and prisoners of war and so on do not cover Palestinians because they are not prisoners of war. They are not. Palestinians are occupied in their own land by an illegal and invasive power. So they are not, they can't be prisoners in their own land. It's not possible. It's similar to saying people like Solomon Mahlangu in this country were prisoners and so on, Nelson Mandela. So the Convention on Prisoners, really, we can't say it extends to Palestinians because they're not prisoners. I'm sorry I made the example of South Africa. It's actually far much worse because Palestinians are kidnapped in the West Bank. They're kidnapped in Gaza into Israeli dungeons and kept there. Just to give our viewers some insight as well, Israel jails has the highest number of children in jails. What they do is they take Palestinian children, they put them in jail and they prosecute them in what is called a military court. The military court of Israel has a over 90% success rate when it comes to Palestinians, particularly Palestinian kids. So this is a system, an apartheid system, an evil system that kidnaps Palestinians, put them in dungeons, breaks their spirit, is what we call psychological apartheid or psychological warfare, to break the will, to break the spirit of the person you've occupied so that they don't resist. So they do this perpetually, and I think since October 7th they've been doing it at heightened level in the West Bank. So this is their modus operandi. But what we've seen yesterday is just horrific. But also to give more information is before October 7th, there have been many recorded incidents of sexual violence against Palestinians who are kidnapped, women, children, and men, and human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, have written many times before United Nations special rapporteurs that Israeli authorities use sexual violence as a tool to silence Palestinians, as a tool to deter Palestinian resistance, to break their spirit. I mean, we see Palestinian prisoners or kidnappees who are coming from Israeli prison. They look like a shadow of themselves. They look like a shadow of human beings. I was being narrated a story of one Palestinian, South African Palestinian who was in Gaza, and unfortunately, the bombardment in Gaza started when he was there. When he came back, one fellow was telling me he couldn't recognize him anymore. He would sit and look at the ceiling the whole time. He could not eat. And this is people who had just been bombed. What about those who were kept in the dungeons in the dark? When they come out of those dungeons, they are shadow of human beings. They are shells of themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, we just saw some visuals as well. We just saw of one of the, captive individuals and coming out of one of the prisons in particular. It looked horrible. The person looked like they was not even in any way ready to. I mean, just look at that right now. It's absolutely horrible. It's horrifying to see that. But I mean, just looking at the difference between Palestinians and Israelis in that sense, if we are looking at the way that the treatment comes into play, and we're talking about morals and ethics and ethos of the general public, you see that when an Israeli, for example, is actually then, removed from a prison or actually, removed from the prison in that sense, they're actually been treated really well. All of them are fine, they seem to be okay. But if you're looking at the Palestinians in that sense, when they are actually, it looks horrible. And why is that the case? Why is it that the one gets treated so badly compared to the other?
Look, I think the irony of it all is that those who were held hostage from October 7th, Israelis who were held hostage, when they were being released, we were laughing about it on air, how they will come up and say, no, I met this fellow, he gave me dates, he told me if I was hungry, he gave me water, he was telling me jokes. Whenever there were bombs, they would give us some entertainment. It almost feels like Israelis went on vacation in Gaza. On the opposite side, you have Palestinians who come out from Israeli dungeons looking less than human beings. I think it's because Israelis are experts at this. They've been doing this over 7 decades. They've been kidnapping Palestinians. They've perfected the art of torture in their dungeons. Palestinians are not used to this. They don't do this a lot. And I think one of the most common things in the world that you know about Palestinians is their hospitality. They are one of the best people you can be a guest to. So I think Israelis who were held hostage as a military tactic, by the way, by resistant fighters, were treated as guests. Ironic and funny enough, we had stories of Palestinian babies being raped, Israeli babies being raped, infants being put into ovens. We had that hostages were raped, the elderly, all false. All reputable and authentic investigative organizations like the United Nations, media houses, they've checked this, they've fact-checked this, it's all a lie. It has not happened. And I think this shows that Palestinians, even in their resistance, they've got an element of humanity in them. On the Israeli side, this is barbaric, this is inhumane, and I think what we've seen from yesterday just shows us that they can go far and beyond the limits of brutality.
No, without a doubt. And I mean, just looking at some of the international, organizations and human rights organizations, a lot of them are coming out and asking and pleading for an end to the indefinite, rampage and detention that's actually happening right now in Palestine. Do you think that Israel will actually be held responsible, or is this not going to really help?
I don't believe so. I think Israel is, the friend who gossips about you behind your back. When you look the other way around, makes fun of your hair, makes fun of your jeans or whatever. At one point, they're going to be tired of gossiping, and they will tell it to your face that they don't like you, they don't like your hair, they don't like your jacket, they don't like your sneakers, and so on. I think Israel is at the point that they are tired of pretending to be a country or a state or a government that is like other governments in the world, a government that upholds human rights. I think they are tired of the charade. They are tired of the facade. I think Israel at this particular point in time says, come at me, bro. What can you do? What have they not done? What law have they not broken? I mean, we just come from the back of International Court of Justice detailing the crimes of Israel. And the Israeli government and society continues as normal. And I think they're tired of pretending. They're tired of charade. They want to show the world that this is us. We are barbaric. In fact, I think that what Israel is doing now is what Nazi Germany did. When the world was starting to pay attention and reports were coming out of Nazi Germany, because at the time technology was not so advanced, I think they are saying, look at us, this is what we do. In fact, when the Nazis were killing Jews in the Holocaust in concentration camps, they started hiding them and moving them, and they could not do it anymore. And they just did it brazenly. They were shooting them in the streets. They were lined up and being executed in neighboring countries of Germany. Now, they are doing the same. And the difference here is we can see it live and in HD on our televisions. We can see it on our smartphones. And they are saying, this is us. This is what we represent. And what are you going to do about it?
No, without a doubt. And Ali, we are getting a lot of comments and questions coming in from social media. Before we actually let you go, just a very quick one on you. When it comes to the Olympics, we know the Olympics is currently running right now in France in particular. A lot of people are boycotting it. A lot of people obviously feel very uncomfortable with the fact that a lot of the things that they were supposed to do didn't happen. For example, banning Israel from participating in that sense. We know they've sent about 88 athletes through to the games. Do you think that this Olympics game will actually lead to more solidarity for Palestine, because you're seeing so many people, in the crowds with their flags showing their solidarity to Palestine?
The Olympic story is quite sad because of the history of the Olympics. I think when South Africa was banned from the Olympics, it was because of African road runners, the ones that dominate the tracks. They said if I think it was New Zealand that hosted South Africa, the rugby, they said if New Zealand is participating and South Africa is participating, we will not run the tracks. Most African countries. So you would not have a track at the Olympics. And I think it's an indictment on countries that are sending athletes to the Olympics, South Africa included. They should say, we are going to, the Olympics Committee has said we are not going to ban Israel. They banned Russia in less than a breath. They said, what you're doing in Ukraine is wrong. You will not participate in the Olympics together with FIFA and other world sporting bodies, right? But when it comes to Israel, why? Why must it be a discussion? Why must we convince people that Palestinians are humans and deserve the same treatment, deserve the same human rights as we do? It's an indictment on countries across the world that go to the Olympics. In this particular case, they should have borrowed from history's lessons when African athletes said, we are not going to run track if apartheid joins these Olympics. They must say, our athletes will not participate in Olympics when Israel is there. This is not genocide games. This is we can't give medals for genocide. We cannot compete with the genocidal state. Therefore, we will not be part of it. And I think it's an indictment on countries, an indictment on those who benefited from such actions like South Africa to do better.
No, without a doubt. I agree with you completely. Alie, thank you so much for joining us tonight on INX Prime Live.
Thank you so much for having us.
Perfect, guys. That is Alie Komape, who is actually the campaigns manager for Africa4Palestine, just sharing with us, this very important information when it comes to this disturbing issues that are happening out in Palestine. It's more specifically when it comes to the torture and many other horrible things that are happening out there as well. Now, on that note, we are going to take a quick ad break. We'll come right back.